Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caroline, and today's video is going to be my summer book recs. So the video that I posted last week was my summer TBR and the books that I'm excited to read this summer. Now this video is going to be the books that I've already read and that I loved and that I think you will enjoy during the summer and that I think are perfect summer reads. There are 10 books here. Also, I would just like to show y'all my sweatshirt. It says I'd rather be reading. I've had this for a really long time, so it's like very worn, but I love it. Perfectly depicts my thoughts a lot of the time. Okay, so starting off, the first summer book rec is Anna and the French Kiss. This overall I think is a book rec in general. I love this book. I rated it 5 stars on Goodreads. There are lots of tabs, as you can see. I very much enjoyed this book. Oh, it's the collector's edition. I definitely recommend getting this one. The other cover isn't my favorite, but I think this one's really pretty. They're both pretty. But basically, this is about Anna, and she meets a boy, and not only is it a romance, but it's also just talks a lot about France, and it's like her time as a student there. But it's just so easy to read, and it's so sweet. Popping in to give a better synopsis of Anna and the French Kiss, because the synopsis I gave didn't really make sense. It was kind of bad. Basically, Anna and the French Kiss is about Anna, who her parents make her go to this boarding school for her senior year in France. And at first she doesn't want to go. She likes where she lives, she likes her school, she likes her friends, but she has to go. Her parents make her. So she ends up going, and she meets this guy. But the only thing is he has a girlfriend. And yeah, that's kind of the synopsis. That's where I'll leave you. Next is a book rec that I think everyone watching this has probably already gotten, and everyone knows about this, but it's the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. I also rated these books a 5 star. I loved them so much. I loved the TV show. I binged it all the night that it came out, and I'm so excited for season 2. I think it's coming out in July. If you haven't heard of this or you don't know what it's about, it's basically Belly. Her name is Isabel, but everyone calls her Belly. It's like her little nickname. She has grown up going to a summer house with the Fisher boys, Conrad and Jeremiah, for as long as she has been alive, for her whole life. And she's always loved Conrad. Like, he was her first crush. He was everything to her. And pretty much that's all I can say. The first one's definitely my favorite, but the third is like a close second. The third is really, really good. And in the third book, you get Conrad and Jeremiah's point of view, which the first 2 books are just Belly's, and the third is still primarily Belly's, but you get a few chapters from their point of view, and it's so good, and I loved it so much. I'm definitely rereading this series this summer. These are just the best summer book recs I can give anyone. They're so good. Okay, next up is 9 Days. This is set at a lake, and it's between Julia and Gabe. Set at a lake, and there's 2 brothers. If you're going on vacation, you're going to a lake, I definitely recommend this. It's kind of like similar aesthetic to Love in Other Words. It kept me on my toes. Kind of felt like a soap opera. Alright, next up is Starry Eyes, which is by Jen Bennett. If you've heard of Alex Approximately, Jen Bennett also wrote Alex Approximately, set at a summer camp, and these kids go together. Basically, these kids are best friends. Zori and Lennon are best friends, and then they become a little bit more than best friends, and then have a total like fallout. So it's best friends to lovers to strangers to lovers again. Basically, they haven't spoken to each other in like a year. All going camping as friends at this campsite. But it's like, it's not a summer camp, but it's like an organized campsite. You know, there's cabins and stuff. And then the people that they're there with think it's a good idea to go off and just go camping on their own, like away from that. Anyway, long story short, they end up in the woods together trying to find their way back home. And so it's camping aesthetic. They're like they're out in the wild, they're intense, they haven't talked in a year, and they're stuck out in the wild with a lot of alone time together. So it's very good. I really liked this, and there's pretty visual. Next up, which I know I've talked about this before on my channel, but We Were Liars, my favorite book of all time. This is a 10-star read. I think most people know about this book, but if you don't, it is basically about Katie. She goes to her grandfather's island. Her grandfather's very rich, and he owns this island. And she goes to the private island every summer. And then her 15th summer there, the summer that they're 15, something happens. And she doesn't go back the following year. And then she comes back summer 17. And she doesn't really remember what happened summer 15. She's very confused. And so as you're reading this book, you're kind of figuring out what went down, what happened for her not to come back the next summer. And so it's an alternating timeline from summer 15 and summer 17, the current summer. And it's so good. There's a huge plot twist that was incredible. That this was my first time really reading. I read this in 6th grade. This was my first time reading a book with like a really big plot twist, and I was shocked. I remember I went on a hike with my family, and I brought my book, and I was genuinely walking and reading because it was so good. It's incredible, and it's so poetic. It's so pretty and well written. So definitely recommend. Also, the prequel. You should read We Were Liars before reading Family of Liars, but it is a prequel. Family of Liars. I think that Family of Liars actually has better summer vibes than We Were Liars. They both have really great summer vibes, but this one just felt more like summer aesthetic. Like it felt like because there's less like crazy plot lines going on, and it's more just following these people's lives. It's very summery and very just like nostalgic and aesthetic, and just gave really great vibes. And so I really love this book. I also rated this one a 5 stars, or 10 stars, honestly. If I could give it 10 stars, I really would. If you've already read We Were Liars, and even if it wasn't your favorite, I've heard a lot of people like Family of Liars better, so I would still recommend reading Family of Liars. Next up is Every Summer After. I briefly mentioned this in my reading vlog because I got Meet Me at the Lake, which is by Carly Fortune. It's her new book. And this was her very first book, which is astounding to me. Like, most authors write many books before they, like, get their very famous one, or before, like, one of their books becomes famous. This was her very first book, and it is incredible. This is Two Brothers trope. It's set on a lake. It's kind of similar to 99 Days, except I think this one's better than 99 Days. I rated this a 4.75, so like so close to a 5. I read this at summer camp, and it just made me so happy. This also has alternating timelines, because basically something happens at that lake house, and she doesn't talk to Sam for 10 years. 10 years, so a decade goes by before they talk again, and she basically comes back in town for Sam's mother's funeral, and she sees him, and, you know, second chance romance. So the tropes are second chance romance, best friends to lovers, and two brothers. So good. And also the cover is so pretty. Isn't that gorgeous? My very last summer recommendation book for 2023 is Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. I think everyone knows Coho at this point. I think this is a very underrated Coho book. It's between Bea and Samson, and they come from very different lives. Bea has really gone through it, and she grew up in a trailer park, and her mom was an addict. These aren't spoilers, you find them out in the first chapter. And Samson is the opposite. He is wealthy. He's staying at his summer home when he meets Bea, and they're just very different. But they find themselves like gravitating towards each other. And so it's basically a summer romance between them. And I thought the ending was really good. Like the last chapter, there's an epilogue, and I think it's really sweet. My summer book recs for summer 2023. Comment down below any books I missed, any books you think I should read for the summer, or what y'all thought if you've read any of these books. And yeah, thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you have a great day.